Golden State is big fish hunting. Remember, last trade deadline, they put a call in about LeBron James. They are sniffing around big deals. If Paul George is willing to leave, they would like to be an option for him. But any of these places that Paul would need to go via trade would have to get worked out with the Clippers and would have to get worked out by Saturday. The Clippers, I think, are in a position where they kind of want to call Paul's bluff that he would actually want to leave his hometown of LA. So that's one of the most interesting things to watch in terms of stare downs between now and this weekend.
Whoa, did I just hear that correctly from Brian Windhorst? Apparently, Paul George is rumored to be leaving the Clippers in free agency. Wow, just wow. This is Sports Guy talking that you guys are watching and listening to. I am Dustin Tran, your host, as I am here today to talk about which team will sign Paul George this offseason. Remember, Paul George has been with the Clippers for the last 5 seasons as they have fallen short in the NBA playoffs quite often. If Paul George leaves the Clippers, though, there will be interest from several teams as they will be looking to become title contenders sooner rather than later. Before I say anything else, though, I want to present you guys with a topic question. So here it is. Which team will sign Paul George this offseason? Obviously, there are going to be several teams interested in the services of Paul George, but there are going to be 5 teams that I believe are in major contention to land Paul George this offseason. Those teams include the Los Angeles Clippers, the Golden State Warriors, the Philadelphia 76ers, the San Antonio Spurs, and the Houston Rockets. And like I said, 3 of those 5 teams, they're not even really predominated in the West Coast. They don't necessarily live in that area. And the good news for the LA Clippers is you can tell Paul George that those 3 teams can't just magically move over to the West Coast in order to satisfy the desire of Paul George. Obviously, you look at how the Philadelphia 76ers, they're in the East Coast. They can't move west, and they're going to stay in the East. We all know that Paul George, even though he likes winning, he also likes to have a media career when he is done playing in the NBA. He's already started a podcast, and you look at how he's joining all these shows in the offseason at ESPN, which tells me Paul George is really invested into becoming a media member when he is done playing in the NBA. And obviously, he wants to stay on the West Coast in order to execute that. If he joins the Philadelphia 76ers, he won't be able to continue his dream of living on the West Coast. I don't think the Philadelphia 76ers are going to be able to sign him, even though they actually have the money to sign Paul George this offseason. I just don't think they're going to be able to pull it off because of the fact that Paul George doesn't really want to move away from the West Coast. He wants to stay there. And obviously, the Philadelphia 76ers don't really have that selling point to make. So I'm out on the Philadelphia 76ers. As for the San Antonio Spurs, they've got an interesting core. They've got Victor Wembanyama, who just won Rookie of the Year and who's been proven to be one of the best defenders in the National Basketball Association. And they've got an elite head coach in Greg Popovich. However, the problem with the San Antonio Spurs is they're not ready to contend for championships right away. And they're also not located on the West Coast as well, which tells me that the San Antonio Spurs are not going to be able to get Paul George in free agency this offseason, mainly because of the fact that their timelines don't match the San Antonio Spurs. They're a few years away from becoming major contenders in the Western Conference. Paul George is a guy that needs to win now because he might not have another 3 to 4 years to wait. Paul George is already 34 years old, and who knows how much longer he will be playing at a high level in the NBA. Now, could Paul George still be playing at a high level 3 or 4 years from now? Absolutely, but is it a guarantee that's going to happen? Heck no, which tells me that LA Clippers don't have to worry about losing him to the San Antonio Spurs, which leads me to my next team, the Houston Rockets. Will the Houston Rockets be able to land Paul George? I don't think that's going to be able to happen because the only way the Rockets can get Paul George to possibly join their team is if they pull off a trade for Kevin Durant. Do I think that's going to happen though? I have doubts about that, mainly because of the fact the Phoenix Suns don't want to give up Kevin Durant. At least that's what they're telling people in the media right now. So we'll see what happens with that. I don't think KD is going to get traded to the Rockets, which means Paul George is not going to join the Rockets. Also, the Rockets are not a West Coast team, and Paul George prefers to stay on the West Coast, which leaves 2 teams left in the running for Paul George. Those 2 teams are the Los Angeles Clippers and the Golden State Warriors. And I say the Golden State Warriors are in major contention to get Paul George because of the fact that Steph Curry desperately needs a second star around him to provide him some help in Golden State. You look at how Klay Thompson, his career has basically fallen off for the Golden State Warriors. He shot 0 of 10 in an elimination game against the Sacramento Kings. That's unacceptable. And obviously, I don't think Klay Thompson is going to be coming back to the Golden State Warriors this offseason. If he does come back, though, I wouldn't be surprised, but I'm not anticipating a return to the Warriors for Klay Thompson. And then, of course, you've also got Draymond Green, who's on the decline. And quite frankly, the supporting cast of the Golden State Warriors has declined ever since they won the title in 2022. Obviously, Steph Curry is still playing at a high level, but the rest of the team isn't playing at a high level, which means the Warriors need to go ahead and retool their roster. The Golden State Warriors need to be in win now mode with Steph Curry on the roster. Anytime you have Steph Curry on the team, you need to always be in win now mode, and Paul George helps the Warriors out in terms of being able to contend for a championship in win now mode. Obviously, am I guaranteeing a championship if Paul George joins the Warriors? Of course not. But what I am saying about Paul George on the Warriors is that they would instantly be a playoff team in the Western Conference. Obviously, they need to go ahead and pull off a sign and trade deal with the LA Clippers. I think they need to be able to trade away Chris Paul, Jonathan Kuminga, and 2 future first-round picks for Paul George. If they can manage to do that, then I believe it's going to be a fair deal for both sides. Even though Paul George really wants to stay on the Clippers are not really all that interested in keeping Paul George. They're not offering Paul George max dollars, and anytime you're not getting offered max dollars, if you're a star player in the NBA, it might be time to pack up and go to another team, which obviously means Paul George has the right to sign with the Golden State Warriors. The Golden State Warriors don't need to execute a sign and trade deal in order to open up cap space for Paul George. Obviously, the LA Clippers, they would like something in return for Paul George. That's why I suggested the trade that I had. It's because Chris Paul, he's a good salary dump, and then Kuminga, he's a good young player, and then of course you get the 2 future first-round picks, which if you're the LA Clippers, you desperately need draft picks, considering the fact that you don't really have a whole ton of draft picks to begin with. From the way I'm seeing it right now, it seems like Paul George is going to end up on the Golden State Warriors. They're the team that probably needs Paul George the most, and obviously Paul George needs to join a team on the West Coast in order to fulfill his desires, and obviously that really only leaves the Warriors or Clippers, but the Warriors want Paul George more than the Clippers want Paul George. Therefore, Paul George is going to end up on the Golden State Warriors, which basically means that Paul George is confirming that he's going to leave the Los Angeles Clippers if the Clippers don't give him max dollars, which I believe will happen, which tells me another team is going to do that. That team is going to be the Golden State Warriors, and I truly believe that we have seen Paul George in a Clippers uniform for the last time. So that is why the Warriors will end up signing Paul George in a sign and trade deal with the Clippers this offseason, as the Warriors will be looking to retool their roster around Steph Curry. Remember, go ahead and subscribe to Sports Guy Talking, like the video, and please comment down below. If you guys do that, I may shout you guys out in my Instagram story every Monday. That'll be for the @DustinNazTran Instagram account. Make sure to follow me on Instagram @DustinNazTran, and that's Sports Guy Talking. Also, go follow me on Twitter @DustinNazTran. Again, go ahead and do those things that I just told you guys to go do. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed the content that was just produced. Peace out. I hope you enjoyed that video. Want more Sports Guy Talking, the home of great sports content? Make sure you click that subscribe button to get the latest from Sports Guy Talking. Go ahead and like the video. Comment down below. Check the description box on the video in order to follow my Instagram and Twitter. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from the YouTube channel Sports Guy Talking.